let's start. I would have known. Yada. So many people showing up. I would have worked harder. But I wanted to say a combination of a few Musarvads, a few points. Some of them you people might have heard already, and some not. So basically, I was just reminded of something that happened on this week's Parsha. This is Parsha in 1974. I was a base medrash guy in Eretz Yisrael. The yeshiva I went to Eretz Yisrael was right open after the 73 war, and I stayed through the end of the year. So there was that time, the most famous Baal Musar in probably the world, but for sure in Eretz Yisrael, I mean, I don't know, they'll say, there were other people too, but in Yerushalayim was Rav Chaim Shmulevitz. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, as we know, the Sichos Musar is probably the best-selling Musar sefer of especially contemporary. So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz used to say shmuzim on Sunday, I think. That was his big shmuz once a week. And those are recorded in the Sichos Musar. What's interesting is that the Sichos Musar is only 3 years worth of shmuzim. Now that's all that someone apparently took notes on. And they never printed more than that. But what people don't know is that Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, besides speaking on Sunday, he also spoke on Shabbos twice. He spoke between Friday night, between Mincha and Ma'ariv, and between Kabbalah and Shabbos, a break. And he spoke at Shabbos Shudas. I was in Israel, so I tried sometimes to go. I regretfully, and I probably have charat, and it was probably a mistake, I didn't go that often. I had a kosher excuse that as a base medrash guy, I felt that I was achroi to be in yeshiva. So there was one of the rebbeim spoke Friday night, so I felt it wouldn't be proper for me to leave Friday night. And also Shabbos Shudas, one of the rebbeim spoke. So it could be I made a mistake. But anyway, I know that Parshas Nasa was an Al Shabbos, whatever. So I went and I was able to go to hear Rav Chaim Shmulevitz speak Friday night. So I still remember his shmuz. It was such an amazing shmuz. And I've said it over many times. He basically this is not what the Musar Vad's about, but just Agav mentioned his shmuz. It was on the Gemara in Saita on Daf Zayin. The Mishnah says that we try and convince the woman not to be Maiden, that she was Mizaneh. So first we tell her that, if you're not Maiden, if you're Mizaneh, then you're going to die a terrible death. Obviously, you don't want to die a terrible death. And then, apparently, there's a possibility that might not work. Why wouldn't it work? Apparently, because the busha of admitting might be even worse than dying, so she's not ready to admit. So we tell her, the final punchline in the Mishnah is we tell her that Asay the man Shimcha Goda get the Lashon. Asay the Shmoa Goda Shenikla B'Kedusha Shlo Yimcha Amoyim. We asked her to do it for Hashem's sake, that Hashem's name should not be erased. So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz asked the Gasha, if this girl, we tell her she's going to die, she's not ready to be made but fear of death. Apparently, because in her mind, being made is worse than death. So now you say, okay, listen, you're not going to be made for death because the busha is worse than death. So be made so Hashem's name shouldn't be erased. You expect me to do something that's worse than death so that Hashem's name shouldn't be erased? So he says, yeah, because for all that's a tzaddikus would do that. But she's not a tzaddikus. She was a woman who was mizaneh. So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz said a very beautiful zem in the fun. A woman who's a mizaneh can also be a tzaddikus. There's no stira. Even tzaddikim, sometimes they get caught up in a yetzer hara. Right? Such a beautiful Chavetz Chaim shmuz. It really is. That a person can be a super tzaddik and you're not showing him aveira. And don't get depressed. Your addiction on Avera, you think, oh, Avera, I'm such a bum, I'm a good for nothing. Look what I did. I was Mizana, Ishes Ish. No, it could be you're really a tzaddik. Your mamish had tremendous Ahavas Hashem. You're in a very high madrega. It happened. It happened that you Nickness Baruch Shtus, and you got caught up. That was a schmooze. That's a beautiful schmooze. I remember it. This is already over 40 years, I think. Right? I think the math. What I'm bringing from this story is not the schmooze. This was I think gems. Chash Whatever says this every week, and it was, as far as I know, they were never written up and they were never recorded. They're all, I don't want to say lost, but they're, I think, so to speak. He spoke twice a Shabbos, and he also spoke many years on Sunday too. They just were never recorded, and they're just probably lost. But what nice to hear was at that time is that there was I can't, it's a long time, I don't remember exactly, but my recollection was, and I always remember it this way, there was less than a million of people at that shmooze. Meaning, Rav Chaim, what used to happen was they used to daven Kabbalah Shabbos in the Mir, and then whoever wanted to would go up to Rav Chaim Shmulevitz had an apartment in the yeshiva. Chaim Shmulevitz did not come to the minyan for Ma'ariv, for the Kabbalah Shabbos, an older man. And then whoever wanted to hear the shmooze, they used to be, the Mir expanded, that they got rid of the apartments. But it used to be that Rav Noch and Rav Chaim Shmulevitz both lived in the building. On the back side, those, the stairway in the back side, the back entrance, the second entrance, we would know that we're in Israel, they goes a stairwell, they were apartments there. That's where they lived. So Rav Chaim, so after Kabbalah Shabbos, whoever wanted to would go into Rav Chaim Shmulevitz to hear the shmooze. My recollection is that less than 10 people were there. Because, first of all, most of the guys were eating out, and this and that, and who wants to go? So it's an amazing, it was like such a, okay, I maybe also had a bad excuse. I should have been there every week too, but at least I thought I had a good excuse. But what about all the people? Here's a person who's the most famous Baal Musar in Yerushalayim. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, even then, was considered world famous. And he's giving a shmooze. And that's what he was famous for. And Kamat, no one shows up. It was like mind-boggling. I had the same thing a different time. This is how I got to get close to Rav Brook. Rav Brook was considered, this was a few years later, when the yeshiva was there in 77, maybe 78, I don't remember. So Rav Brook was one of the Ziknei Bali Musar. And I didn't even have a Havamina to go speak to him. Like, I'm gonna go speak to the Ziknei Bali Musar. And sometime in the middle of the year, I had a friend living in Israel named Leibel Lisker, who was married, and he was a high school classmate of mine. He wasn't in Chavetz Chaim anymore. He was married. He was living in somewhere off Shmuel Navi, and he invited me for a meal Friday night, and he davened in the Varnik Yeshiva Friday night. So I went there for the minyan. So there's barely a minyan, and again between Kabbalah Shabbos and Ma'ariv, Rav Brook gets up to speak. He spoke in Ivrit Kala. You could tell that he made it was doing it on purpose in case where Americans didn't understand Hebrew. And there was the whole minyan was around 15 people, and I would say 99% were not listening. They were, mouthing the Sedra or whatever. And I was looking and saying, if this person gets up to speak to an audience of 10 people or 15 people, and I'm sure he also sees that no one's listening, and he's speaking in Brit Kala, I can get to him. So that's when we started going. I started going with Rabbi Grunblatt. We used to go only on Al Shabbos, which was maybe also a mistake. We used to go on an Al Shabbos. He used to give a shmooze, Shabbos Shuddis. So we went on the Al Shabbos. We would hear his shmooze. And then after the shmooze, we would stay for Havdalah. He said Havdalah in his house. His house was also in the yeshiva building, his apartment. And then after Havdalah, we would stay and we would talk to him. And we would talk for quite a while. It was amazing. I gained so much. But the Musar there I'm trying to bring out is that here we're such an amazing opportunity, and many people. I wasn't the only person in Eretz Yisrael. People were just blowing it, missing it. Maybe I missed it too. I didn't take enough advantage of Rav Brook either. Should have gone more than once every 3 weeks. That was also a mistake. Should have gone during the week, whatever. But there were, these golden opportunities, and people just miss it. So the topic that I wanted to talk about, it was not Rav Brook, Rav Chaim, whatever, the shmooze. It's a beautiful shmooze on this week's parsha. But on how the taking the opportunities that come up. How do we find the opportunities, and how do we take advantage of the opportunities? So the first thing we're talking about is there's obviously opportunities in learning that people miss, that, there are great people around. Now, it doesn't mean that if you knock on Rav Shach's door, so to speak, or a Moshe Feinstein, you say, I want to learn with him, he'll let you in. Obviously, you cannot get into a Moshe Feinstein, and you cannot get into this Stipler, and you cannot get into Rabbi Yashiv, and, maybe certain people, they knew how to do it, they could get in. But an average person, there's certain people it's almost impossible to get into. But there were people who were great people that you could get into and you could learn from, and you don't have to always go to number one. You could go to the person who's the second grade, could be the most famous Gadol Dor you can't get into. But the second most famous, you could. So you have to try and take advantage. Now, it doesn't mean every time you try and take advantage, you'll succeed. I asked a number of Gedolim if I could learn with them, whatever, and they told me no. Okay, it happened. There were many people that told me no. But there were many people that told me yes. So, you never know. There were people that tell you no, and there are people that tell you yes. There was one person, I asked him, I didn't even get a no. So I asked him, can I ask Rashiva a question? That's all I got. He just shook his head and just ignored me. Okay, so you got to be ready for that too. The Rashiva
how do you not feel like an idiot when that does happen?
What?
How do you stop yourself from feeling like really stupid when you do that?
Yeah, okay. That's how you feel. But it's like if you're a salesman, how many doors you get slammed in your face, and you still come on sales. People that are these telemarketers, how many people must hang up on them? People that went fundraising.
But it's not like the President of the United States rejecting them.
For the learners, for this thing. People, I'm sure a lot of people hung up on you, but you just keep on going. I didn't have too often that. I had once or twice. But I did have once or twice that I got really told no in a stark way. But a lot of people, you were amazed. Many people, they told you yes more than I wanted. I was asking for one time, and they told me, they gave me much more. There were, so you never know. But there is such a thing, obviously, in learning, to try and grab opportunities. But there are many other opportunities. I don't want to just limit it to learning. I mentioned at a different time, I think people heard this, but I want to say it because I think it's important to bring home that something I don't think I realized till many years later. So I was much older, and I was in Eretz Yisrael, and I was a Rebbe, and it took me years to I figured this out or noticed this, that many Choshvei Gedolim have very big needs, and you can do tremendous chesed. Doing a chesed to a Gadol is a major thing. There's a famous shmooze that Oig Melech HaBashan, Moshe was afraid of Og Melech HaBashan. Why was he afraid of Og Melech HaBashan? Because he did a chesed to Avram, that he told Avram that Lot was captured. So everyone has a kasha, but first of all, Lot did it Shel Shem Shemayim. He did it because he wanted to kill Avram. So it's a pretty crummy mitzvah. And second of all, okay, he did one chesed, but Moshe did a life of chesed. So why in the world should Moshe be afraid? So the answer they said is, Moshe did a life of chesed, but he did one chesed to Avram. You do a chesed to Avram, you're way up there. So there's such a thing. A chesed to a gadol is tremendous. We think, what, a god? But you don't hear, I didn't hear this talk as older, older means, like 40, that the many gedolim are very needy because they're, especially when they get older, and it's hard for them to do certain things, and they don't like asking for favors. It's against their personality. They don't like asking people for favors, and they also are not into. They don't know all the kunsim. They're not just not into. They're not savvy on the internet. They're not savvy in a lot of things, and they could use help. In many things. I think I was brought home to me when we were in Eretz Israel. So I used to learn with this Rav Shia. Rav Shia held was one of the Gedolei Adar. And Rav Shia was an older man at that time, and he wasn't so well, and he had trouble walking. And at some point, he wanted to go somewhere, and he somehow, I think he must have asked me if I could get him somehow a ride. I think maybe the Rosh Yeshiva was coming to Yeshiva, and he wanted to go visit the Rosh Yeshiva. They were very close friends, Rosh Shia and Rosh Yeshiva, from the old days. So, so my wife ended up driving him, and she became his driver. And he needed a lot. He needed driving, because I don't think taxis was not probably in his budget, and he could hard to walk, and he needed to be driven places. And they were every so often he would ask me to ask my wife to give him a ride. He has to go to a wedding, whatever, There was a different guy that asked me to go shopping for him. His wife was too old. She needed some ingredients, and it was harder to go to the store. So, and even financially, there are gedolim. Sometimes they get financial needs. They get older. Also, there are financial expenses. Gedolim are not really always, very financially. Now, again, you go to Rav Steinman, you'll probably have 50 million people trying to give Rav Steinman money. And you go to the Stipler, but they were very, usually the next tier of people, everyone runs after the most famous person. And the second most famous person, or the third, or the fourth, no one's running after. And they could have tremendous financial needs. You read the Svarim, the Chavetz Chaim came out starving. And a lot of Gedolim were come out starving. If you read the Svarim, I don't know if you people read Svarim. There's a Maisa in the Mikor Baruch about the Netziv. That the Netziv came home and he wanted to eat something, and he saw a piece of butter. And he asked his wife if he could eat the butter, and she said, "Yeah, you could eat it, but we should save it for our daughter." So he didn't eat his butter. It was the only thing you could find in the house to eat was a little slice of butter. That's it. So there's like people, Gedolim were, did not have it always so easy. So there's an Indian of keeping your eyes open, trying to do chasadim to Gedolim. It's a very, very big Indian.
Rabbi, is this common outside of Eretz Yisrael?
I don't know. But in Eretz Yisrael, for sure, Gedolim don't, and they can't get around. And you can offer them rides. And now it could be there are certain people, everyone's doing it, but there are some people. But I suspect it's common outside Eretz Yisrael too. Yeah, I suspect. Again, the same thing. I say the most famous gadol you won't have, but there are other people that aren't so famous, kosher people that because they don't like asking. It's not in their personality to ask.
Is this svara because you want to help a gadol, so therefore you're not going to get to the top, the people people are already helping, so you'll try to help the people who nobody really knows about, or is it because the people who nobody really knows about aren't getting help, and therefore you should try to help them?
Both. They're both good svaras. Okay, anyway, but let me move on. But then there's also opportunities of chesed. Obviously chesed, keep your eyes up. In this kikir of opportunities, there are you meet people that say they were mekar of so many people, and other people are mekar of nobody. I mentioned, I think I mentioned Rabbi Cohn. You told me, also was in Eretz Yisrael, but okay, because when he goes to Eretz Yisrael and he takes a taxi, So he says he always takes a Jewish taxi. Now, a lot of people are mocked only to take Jewish taxis because of safety. And there are certain taxi companies that they will advertise that they don't use Arabs because people don't feel safe. But Rabbi Cohen says he takes a Jewish company because he wants to know that the driver is Jewish, because he's going to be sitting in the taxi with this driver. What do you think he's going to be doing with him? He's going to be being Makar of him. He's going to sit there and just waste time, sit there and daydream. I know I got a capture audience. He's stuck with me. And he says every time he takes a taxi, he gets a Jewish taxi, and tries to Makar of the guy. And then he says, and then when he leaves, in Israel, you do not tip taxi drivers. It's not norm, but I'm sure they appreciate it if you do. So he says he always gives a tip because he wants the guy to like him. Oh, that was a nice man. Then he says more likely he'll accept what I said. So it's worth me the extra $5 that my kiruv will have an effect. So it's just the goddess. I mean, not everyone can do that. I agree. It not be in your personality. But the goddess of Rabbi Cohen is he doesn't miss an opportunity. You know, who would think? You sit on a bus and the person sitting next to you, or you go on a plane and there's a person sitting next to you, and you're hoping, I hope the guy doesn't talk to me. But Rabbi Cohen is just the opposite. You have to try and make out of the person. You never know. I was on a plane and I saw someone doing that. I was very impressed. I happened to be a Lubavitcher. I got to give them credit when they were at his due. He went up and he started up with someone, and he was worried to carry them the whole plane trip. It was gewaldic. It was gewaldic. They switched seats, whatever. But he got it. He found someone who was interested, and he worked on him the whole trip. To take some interest. So there are opportunities that we miss because we're just okay. Anyway, that's one topic. But I wanted to talk about a different topic. It's not really a different topic, but it's related. Sometimes we get very almost upset that you hear about people that have these amazing success, and you wonder, why do all the golden opportunities go to them and not to me, right? How come, this guy was walking down the street and he saw someone drowning and he saved him? Why don't I get to save someone from drowning? It never happened. I never saw a guy drown. Why does this guy get that mitzvah? And I say that, Rabbi, there are certain things, opportunities, things that people have, and you feel like, why they hit gold. This person, he was Makarev Rabbi Cohen to come to yeshiva. I know the person who was Makarev him to come to yeshiva. That's gold. How come I don't get that? Well, maybe I do. I don't know. But we'll find out in 20 years from now. But the Maisa, sometimes you wonder, how come other people get so many golden opportunities, great mitzvahs, and we just seem to get, plain, ordinary mitzvahs? So there's two answers. And I want to focus on the second answer. There's one answer, Megalgalim Schosai De Zakai. First of all, you have to look for it. You need Siyata Deshmaya. And Hashem doesn't give great mitzvahs unless, you have to deserve it. You have to daven for it. You have to, you start with little mitzvahs and you work your way up. And that's Megalgalim, that's Pshat Megalgalim Schosai De Zakai. There was a reason why Esther was given the opportunity to save all Klal Yisrael, because she had so many other mitzvahs. It wasn't just, she was just a stam girl off the street and she got this opportunity and she saved all Klal Yisrael. Right? In other words, you can't almost expect to have great opportunities. You have to deserve it. That's Megalgalim Schosai De Zakai. Hashem gives golden opportunities to people. That's the reward for doing the little mitzvahs. You do the little mitzvahs, so to speak, then you're given the opportunity. You're given the chance. When you walk down the street, you see a person who's drowning or is about to commit suicide or whatever, and you can save their life, or you can easily carve them or whatever. But you have to first start with the smaller mitzvahs to get there. Okay, so that's one answer. But there's another answer, which is also in Yana Diyama, which is the Yeshiva has a beautiful, beautiful shmooze. It's in the Chidusha Levan Rus. Those who have the Chidusha Levan Rus, it's a separate volume, right? It's printed by Shiva Torah Chaim. Anyway, there's a shmooze, Beis Yerav. The shmooze is that there's Ruth asked Boaz, why did he's so nice to me? And Boaz tells her, Hagid Higili. He uses a double lashon. I was told. So, and he says here when he was told, he says, Chamosech, Tazvech, Aveh, Ve'imech. So there's a Targum which says, and he says to her that I was told in Nevuah, the Torah Ruach HaKodesh, that you did two amazing mitzvahs. And the schus of these mitzvahs, you're going to get the Melech HaMashiach. What were the two mitzvahs that she did? That when your father-in-law died, you took care of your mother-in-law. You helped her out. And means you love your mother and father, but it doesn't just mean your mother and father, your physical, but also your spiritual, means that you gave up. You were the daughter of the king of Moab, and you gave everything up, and you were Megayer. So you gave up your riches, you gave up your father, your mother, your religion, your tradition, everything tremendous, and you came to become a pauper, to be Megayer, which was unheard of at that time. So the Shiva asks a kasha that the fact that the Medrash or the Pasuk or the Targum puts both of these together, it's very mashma that these were both like on the similar level. And these were like the two biggest mitzvahs that Ruth did in her whole life. And we don't know which one is greater. They're like equal. So Shiva asks, the Gimel guy, especially when you're the princess of the country, and your father is a king, and you give it all up to go and to be, basically she was begging for food, so to speak, and she had to go to Israel, she had nothing. So to give all that up, that's tremendous Mesiras Nefesh. I understand that's a world's highest level mitzvah. To take care of your mother-in-law after your father-in-law dies doesn't sound like any great thing. He says there's probably a lot of people that do that they feel obligated to have this loving mother-in-law, and they have a good relationship. She's old, she needs help, I'll take care of her. So how does the pasuk put the two together? So the Shiva said of art, a very beautiful, important insight, that we sometimes make a mistake. We think that the big mitzvahs are the glorious mitzvahs. You can take a very simple mitzvah, but if you do it with a full heart, with a total conviction, with a dedication, that becomes a great mitzvah. So when she went to her mother-in-law, that was with such commitment, dedication. She felt it. She wanted to do it. It transformed itself into one of the greatest mitzvah of her life, that she had two great mitzvahs in her life. So it's a very big yesod that it doesn't have to be always the glamorous, the amazing mitzvah. I saved someone's life. That's the greatest mitzvah. It could be the greatest mitzvah of your life is that you answered Amen Yeshmei Rabbah with Kavanah, or even Baruch Hu Baruch Shmuel. You did it. You really got sincere about it, and you tried it. That could be your greatest mitzvah because you did it with your full heart. He says that the Darkei Musar, it's on page Shin Nun Hey, says the exact same part as Rosh Hashiva. There's a Gemara in Avodah Zarah. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah, famous Gemara that, I don't even make up the name, that Rav Yossi ben Kisma spoke to Rav Chanina ben Trajan. And I'm not sure who's speaking to who, but I think Chanina ben Trajan asked Rav Yossi ben Kisma, am I going to get Adam Haba? First Rav Yossi ben Kisma gave Chanina ben Trajan Musar for teaching Torah B'Rabim that didn't he realize that the Goyim are going to kill him. And he told him this, as they felt that was halacha, he's supposed to be Meiser Nefesh to teach Torah or whatever. Okay. And then he said, but listen, the Romans are going to burn you, they kill you, which they did. So then Rabbi Chanina ben Tradin asked, being that I'm going to be killed, will I get item haba? So Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma asked him, did you ever do anything good? Klum ma'isa b'aliyatcha. So he said, there was a ma'isa that once I had money of Purim that I was supposed to give for Matanas Evyainim, and it got mixed up. Money of Purim that I was supposed to spend on myself for my Purim Suda, and it got mixed up with money of the staka, of the Matanas Evyainim money, and I went in and I gave the whole thing to staka, which was maybe as far as we may go, and I gave the whole thing to staka. So he told him, if that's the case, you're going to go to Om Haba. So everyone asked the kasha. He just went ahead and did the mitzvah. He's doing the mitzvah of dying al Kiddush Hashem. He's teaching Torah b'Rabbim with the Romans. And he's going to be burned with the Sefer Torah for teaching Torah. And he asked the kasha, am I going to get Om Haba? I said, well, let's see what you did. Oh, you gave them the money to Staka. Oh, you got Om Haba. So the Darkei Musa says the same exact word. He says, teaching Torah b'Rabbim with dying al Kiddush Hashem, as great as it is, there's a flaw in it because it's done in public. It's done in public. It could be that it's almost impossible not to have a little bit of Shalom Lishma mixed in, a little bit of kavod. Everyone sees that I'm dying al Kiddush Hashem. Look, everyone sees I'm teaching Torah b'Rabbim. I'm going to be burnt at the stake for Rabbim. So there's a certain Shalom Lishma. This Maisa of giving tzedakah, no one knew about. His own private house, no one knew. So it says at Darkei Musa that they felt that giving that tzedakah, which obviously did it totally to shame Shemayim, was on a higher madrega than when he gave his life on Kiddush Hashem. Even though we're sure that Chanan ben Tradin, when he did Kiddush Hashem, he wasn't interested in the covenant. But there's a memela seeped in, a darkness in there. Anyway, there's a very important hashkafa, which is something that we talk about chapping, trying to chap big mitzvahs. There's two ways to chap big mitzvahs. You can chap big mitzvahs by searching out the big mitzvah, the great opportunities, looking for the great opportunities, keeping your eye out for the great opportunities. To have any of these, you get the great opportunities. That's one way. But the other way, which is sometimes easier, is to take a simple mitzvah and to transform it into a great mitzvah. You say, okay, I'm going to say this, I'm going to shul, hopefully I'm going to shul now. I'm going to say Kaddish. I'm going to make this one Amen Yesh Bei Rabbah the greatest mitzvah of the day, of the year, of my lifetime. I'm going to do this mitzvah with so much kavanah and such a shame shemayim and such, do it medaktek and do it halachically right. So I'm gonna transform that one mitzvah into the greatest mitzvah. So we don't have to, say, I didn't get my amazing mitzvah. You got your amazing mitzvah. We can make it ourselves if we want to. I think it's a very, very important thing you say, that we have the ability to create amazing mitzvahs if we're not careless, if we put in effort. Okay, anyway, so that's the point I want basically to say. Two basic ideas. It's really the same idea that we have to try and be zeicha to get the large, try and get every mitzvah precious. Surely the large gewaldige mitzvahs are very special. One way is keeping our eyes open. Like I was saying, you can do a chesed to a gadol, an amazing mitzvah. That's like we say when oid melech habashin. Learn from a gadol is an amazing mitzvah. Being mekarev someone is an amazing mitzvah, right? Mekarev someone, all his chusim of his whole life, you get credit for. There are certain amazing mitzvahs out there besides the daily little mitzvahs. So one hand, we have to try and keep our eyes open to try and notice the amazing, amazing mitzvahs and try, people are home. Maybe there's someone at home you give me mekarev. Convince your little brother to go to yeshiva. There are things to be done, I suspect. But so one is we have to try and find the amazing mitzvahs in wherever we are. It's like Rabbi Cohen, he's in the taxi. it doesn't say, okay, now's a good chance to go to sleep. I think it's an opportunity, like to notice the opportunities. But the second thing, which is just as important, is not to just think that amazing mitzvahs, so to grow on tree, you have to just, you have to have siyata d'shmaya. If you don't have siyata d'shmaya, what can I do? No amazing mitzvahs came to me. We can create our own amazing mitzvahs. I don't say we can do that for all day long, but you can dedicate, you can make a mind that, okay, this mitzvah, this Amen Yeshmei Rabbah, this, so take a little easy mitzvah. No one sees. I'm doing it with, no one's going to notice it. I'm going to put a nickel into the pushka, but no one's going to notice me doing that. I'm going to do it with all the right kavanas and all the right, intents. And you can take putting the nickel in the pushka and change that into also one of the greatest mitzvahs if we do it with the right purpose in kavanah. Okay, I'm finished. Yashikayach, everybody. Okay, shikayach to you for listening. Okay.
Ask a quick question. Is there time?
Yes, you can ask a question. Well, I don't want to miss Mariv, but we still got 2 minutes to Mariv. No, I'm only joking. Okay. I'm making a joke. You have to get my sense of humor. There is no Mariv here.
Okay, there's Mariv
already, but okay, yes.
I was just wondering. I think they say in Shemona Esrei, if you say the whole entire Shemona Esrei, like with kavana, then you're zochet to like a very big opportunity for a very big mitzvah. Is that true, or is maybe if I do one bracha?
Good. There's such a thing as mitzvah gereres mitzvah. So it doesn't. Saying the whole Shemona Esrei kavana is a very, very difficult mitzvah. It's not something which too many people do too many times. And therefore, if you're able to do it, and you make up your mind, you're going to do it one time, you get yourself really worked up and you really do it, it's an amazing mitzvah. And mistama, since we have a rule, mitzvah gereres mitzvah, not knowing any chazal that you're quoting, it sounds mistavra. That if you're doing a very special mitzvah, you'll be like another special mitzvah. That's how life works. Mitzvahs gereres mitzvahs. But what I was trying to say at the end is you don't need that. You don't have to say, I'm going to daven Shemona Esrei, so I should get an amazing mitzvah. That itself could be your amazing mitzvah. You have to feel that this itself is the amazing mitzvah. Davening. I want the Chafetz Chaim has this mashal. It's a famous mashal. I don't want to keep everyone, but he has a mashal of a person who was a Sfarim collector, and he collected thousands and thousands of Sfarim. And then at the end of the life, he decided he's going to sell out his collection. So he wanted to hear there's a person that pays top hours for Sfarim. So he figures he's going to make millions of dollars. So he calls the guy in, and the guy goes into his warehouse, and he spends hours looking through all his thousands and thousands of Sfarim, and he comes out to carrying 2 Sfarim. He says, okay, I'll take these 2. He says, 2? I got thousands. He says, yeah, but none of them, I went through all of them, and every single one was slightly damaged. Either the pages were bent, they were missing pages, they were waterlogged, they were dirty. I only take Sfarim in mint condition. I pay top hours. So the Chafetz Chaim says that you start making a cheshbon, how many brachas you make in your lifetime. Have at least 100 brachas a day, usually. 100 brachas a day is 36,000 a year, right? I think so, which is, if you have 70 years, so you're talking about 2 million brachas in your lifetime. He says very often a person's going to come up to Shemayim, and he's going to come with his 2 million brachas, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will say, as far as, okay, I'll pay you, little dollars, but top dollars, okay, we'll take 2. Because of all your 2 million brachas, most of them were said without kavana. You skipped words. You didn't pronounce the words properly. Your hands weren't clean. You weren't dressed properly. You weren't thinking. You didn't have kavana. So it says, So you probably, maybe you said 2 or 3 brachas your whole life, 2 or 3 Shemona Esrei. So if you could go ahead and add one more, it's a pretty big thing. Instead of having one that your whole life, they'll tell you, oh, Jamie, you know how many Shemona Esreis you say with Kavana? Your whole life, 1. So now you get 2. Right? That's pretty good. That's, you get that. That's a big accomplishment. Okay. Anything else? All right. No one else? I can go. What? I can go? You should go. Okay, so we'll see you people tomorrow. You should go.
Thank you.
Okay, good night, everyone.